lives on, but the image is a different breed. Formula One racers, cinching up to 700 horsepower, a life of action and danger, a life of glamour. All part of the quest for the World Driving Championship. Race number 9 for the World Championship from Dallas, Texas, on CBS live flag-to-flag coverage. Normally, pre-race is the calm before the storm. It is the eye of the hurricane of this 2.4-mile course at Dallas, Texas Fairgrounds. The question is, will there be a race? What kind of a race? The 1984 Dallas Grand Prix could well be in 1985 as far as many of these drivers are concerned. Yesterday, a Can-Am event, and in it, 6 turns were torn up around the course. They started work at 3 this morning. Some of the asphalt didn't work, and this is what we saw this morning when we arrived at the track, holes in the track, and this kind of construction going on. These pictures were taken at 9:30 as they were taking out some patch asphalt, what they call set 45, and putting it in again. And you can see concerned drivers going around the course, and they have not been happy with what they have seen. They've torn out some of the corners. It takes 45 minutes for this concrete to set. It may set, but the edges around it may tear up again. And naturally, there's a lot of nervous people, 25 of them, sitting in the cars now on pit road, and the issue is, will they go? Hello, I'm Ken Squire here in Dallas, Texas, and it's a wing and a prayer as far as this Grand Prix is concerned. Grand Prix races always come down to 3 things. They come down to cars, they come down to drivers, and they come down to the track itself, the course. And the course is predominant here. With that story, let's go to Chris Economaki.
The 25,000 tons of asphalt that cost $1 million that make up this racetrack has taken unbelievable punishment in the last few days. The wide tires and wide G-forces of the Formula One cars have dug holes in many of the turns. Now, those holes were patched last night, but it found that the patching material in some cases was defective. So this morning, just a few hours ago, fresh patches were put in here. And as you can see, this one here on turn 7A, the sharpest turn on the course, doesn't even look dry yet. It dries in 45 minutes, the men say. And we asked the foreman on the job if it would hold up under the pressures of the Formula One cars. And he looked at me with confidence and said, "We'll see."
Well, Chris Economaki, I'm here on the grid. I've been covering motor racing, as you know, since 1962, and I've never known so many unhappy and some very bitter drivers. This isn't a matter of courage, it's a matter of common sense. The drivers have been going around the track again and again. Nicky Lauda's taken a safety inspector around in a saloon car, and nobody would ever doubt his courage. But the feeling is that this race should really have been delayed for at least another 5 hours. One driver's predicted there'll be broken bones. There was, of course, talk of a strike. Would all the drivers stop after a few laps? The team managers have told me they are placing the onus on the drivers alone. If they feel it's unsafe, they will stop. There won't be a mass walkout or a mass drive out. These men are paid to race, and that's what they'll do. But perhaps not paid to have to make this sort of decision. It's going to be very tough indeed.
Thank you, Barry Gill. All week long, the story has been heat at this track. They expect the temperature to be around 104 degrees outside, probably 140 degrees in the cockpit in David Hobbs. That's going to make it miserable, no matter how many laps they run or don't run today.
Well, it is going to be miserable, Ken, and of course the track breaking up just makes it, compounds the misery for these drivers. You've got to think of a cockpit temperature at least 30 degrees above ambient, which is going to make it about 130 degrees. And doing it at 60-odd laps around this track, you're looking at something like 2,500 gear changes, 1,500 applications of the brake. It's like doing a pretty medium workout in a sauna. If the track breaks up as well, they've got to be much more precise. There's nowhere to go. If they do make a mistake, it's straight into the wall. So it's going to be a pretty tough day for these guys.
Now, quickly, let's take a look at the course over which these drivers will be competing today. Here's David Hobbs.
Tambay's head bobbing about as he bounces down the start-finish straight here at Dallas into turn 1 at about 120 miles an hour in 4th gear. This is a tricky, bumpy, double apex right-hander, which leads into another bumpy, double apex left-hander. He's accelerating all the way through here, probably up to about 130 here, and accelerating up to about 150 at this point here before he brakes hard for this first sharp left-hander, down to probably second gear there. More very quick acceleration up here into this right-hander. He's now going to quite a complex long left-hand turn, which he can't see anything like as well as we can, because his eyes are about 2 feet lower than this camera. As he brakes, tames down to first for this tricky corner here. The surface is breaking up badly there. This is the slowest part of the course, the hairpin. Again in first gear. Accelerates up to fourth gear here. Quite a quick bit of track, 130 miles an hour, as he swings right and left into this high-speed complex onto a concrete surface there off the asphalt. Brakes hard on that concrete, left and right, second gear. The road falls away there, very close to that wall. 5 cars have hit that in practice so far. Up to pretty high speed here, back to fourth as he comes into this long left-hander, accelerating through here all the way. Quite a quick corner, 130 miles an hour. And he's now on the fastest part of this course, doing 165 or 170. As he brakes, changes down to second for this right and left chicane. The road surface is breaking up here as well. This lap's taking Patrick about 1 minute and 50 seconds for the viewers. In real life, he'll be doing it in about 1 minute and 40 seconds, and he'll be changing gears somewhere about 35 times during this lap, which works out to about once every 3 seconds. And here's 4 of those changes coming up as he brakes down to first gear for this very sharp hairpin. Tremendous acceleration out of that in first, second, third, fourth, back to third for this, the last turn, as he turns onto the start-finish straight again, and another very big bump.
Across the start-finish line by our announced position, temperature now at 90 degrees. Temperature at 90 degrees, and it may stretch to 104 before the afternoon is over. The 32nd board is out for the formation lap. They have cut the race by 10 laps, down to 68 from 78. This first formation lap is a counting lap, so they get credit for being here. They don't do any passing, and they'll pull up on the grid and prepare themselves for the actual green light start. It is so hot here, so difficult, this course. David, we had a chance to look at what the drivers have to compete with just in what they wear, as well as the temperature outside.
Yeah, there we see Nigel Mansell in his birthday suit, and we'll see in stages what he has to put on. All, of course, is to combat fire. There's the long overall, the long underwear, which is fireproof material. There we see the final 3-layer quilted top coat. He also puts on top a head sock. There we see the head sock. He's got fireproof shoes and socks, the helmet on top of that, and then thick fireproof gloves. Now all of this is great for keeping fire out, but it also keeps the heat in tremendously in these cars. And he's going to be in the blazing sun, and in fact in his case it's compounded by the fact that, of course, the suit is black.
Let's take a look now at the starting grid for the Dallas Grand Prix. Here's how they'll come out, 25 strong. The pole is a career first for Great Britain's Nigel Mansell in the Renault-powered Lotus. Italian teammate De Angelis makes it a Lotus front row for the first time since Holland back in 1978. Row 2 is Great Britain's Derek Ward for the French Renault team and Arnoux for Team Ferrari. Going to row 3, Austrian two-time world champion Niki Lauda from McLaren and the 24-year-old Brazilian Senna in the Tolman Hart. Row 4 is current #1 driver in the world, Alain Prost from France, and beside him Finland's world champion Keke Rosberg. In row 5, it's Italy's Michele Alboreto for Team Ferrari, and from France, the two-time Can-Am King Patrick Tambay. In row 6, the BMW-powered Brabhams, a surprising Corrado Fadi, a shade faster than teammate defending world champion Piquet. The next row back is the Winkelhock car, the ATS, and the only American, Eddie Cheever, is there in the Alfa Romeo. Row 8, John Cecotto from Venezuela, and it's Andrea de Cesaris in a Ligier. Going to row 9, Stefan Belloff of West Germany, the Tyrrell, and beside him, Genzani. Then in row 10, Francois Hainaut, and from Switzerland comes Terry Boutsen. In the 11th row will be Riccardo Patrese, and it will be Mark Schur alongside him. Going to row number 12, it's Hugh Rothengater, the Dutch driver, and the eldest driver in the race, Jacques Lafitte, at 40 years of age. And finally, Dr. Jonathan Palmer of Great Britain starts dead last on the field in the 25th position.
Well, he should start dead last. But Manfred Winkelhock's engine failed to start up after that first pace lap, and so that means that he now has to start at the back of the grid, which on this very twisty 16-turn course is going to be a decided disadvantage for Manfred, who qualified pretty well.
some drivers have been talking all week long about the excessive heat and how difficult this track was. Blackie Sherrard in the Dallas Times-Herald wrote a great feature the other day about not only the engines whine, but today it's a lot more than whine. It is serious concern by all these drivers about this course, and particularly after we've had one very bad accident out here with the Ford Tyrrell team.
Yes, where poor old Martin Brundle broke his leg, of course, 3 weeks before the British Grand Prix, where he was finally going to get a chance to show himself off before his home crowd. It is a serious problem. When the track breaks up anywhere, it's very serious because it becomes virtually undrivable on modern slick racing tires. There is no tread, so when you get up on the old asphalt where it's peeled away, it becomes just like riding on ball bearings. It's impossible.
Well, there you see the lights and you see the field coming online for the start of the Dallas Grand Prix. And the outcome of the race today is a serious question. On the start, the Lotuses in front. Nigel Mansell pulls out in front from Great Britain, from England, originally out of Birmingham. And here's the field through this very twisty series of S's, and it's right at the end of that pit road that they claim is the fastest part of the course for the turbos.
Here we see them winding down to the through that left and right-hand complex. The first sharp corner there just behind them. Now they're coming to a place where the track's broken up. There you can see the new concrete surface. Let's just hope it stays looking like that for the rest of the afternoon. René Arnoux, in fact, for some reason or other, pulled up, and there's Elio De Angelis having a bit of a moment there as he goes around that hairpin, coming onto the straight up to the fast dogleg now.
18 turns, 7 right, 11 left, 2.42 miles. As the Dallas Grand Prix controversial event is underway, and the Lotuses are running first and second with the third place car, belonging now to the Renault team. Derek Warwick maintaining that third position.
And right behind him is the young Ayrton Senna in the Tolman Hart. But Ayrton has a definite heat problem. He cannot last in heat, and the chances of him finishing this race, I would say, are pretty slim. Obviously, I hope I'm wrong, but he does have a problem with heat. And obviously, this is the hottest he's ever raced in.
There you see, running the fifth position, McLaren, and that would be Niki Lauda. And back in the seventh position is Alain Prost, currently the #1 driver in the world standings. A French driver has never won the World Crown.
There we see them streaming. Nigel Mansell holding a nice lead there. There we see, that looks like Francois Hinault coming back.
Francois Hinault, first retiree for the event, as you watch Nigel Mansell. That brings back memories of 1978, Ronnie Peterson, Mario Andretti, when they won the front row 5 times that year, and of course it went on to Andretti's World Championship, the loss of Ronnie Peterson in it.
Those are back in the halcyon days for Lotus, and there we see Hinault's Ligier. Obviously had a contretemps with the wall or that tyre barrier. We saw him running across the road, so he's obviously all right. But that's one less car. There's only 24 out there already. This is going to be a race of very high attrition. There's no doubt about it. What the track doesn't get, there we see Mansell getting out of step there. Derek Warwick coming around that hairpin. Making a bit of ground now on Niki Lauda in that car number 8. And here we see, oh, there's somebody else spun. That looks like, nobody at the moment. I can't see the number. The Fokker guys seem to have got a bit of a phobia about putting decent numbers on cars. They say you should be able to recognize the helmets. That is in fact Senna. That's number 19, Ayrton Senna.
And his teammate John Giacotto just pitted.
Tried to do a 3-point turn there, and that didn't work either. Nigel Mansell still streaming along in the lead. Not one of the world's luckiest drivers, Nigel.
Nigel Mansell, who just finished previously, has been third. See a safety car on the course. Safety car picking up the field here.
Now, what on earth they've done that for, I don't quite know. Because Senna's car could be pushed well out of the way. Unless they've done it for Hinault's car, which we can't exactly see where it is. But the last thing we want in this race is too much of this pace car fiasco.
Could turn into a saloon car race here. Warwick is in third. Warwick is fourth. Lauda fifth. And up into the 6th position moves Keke Rosberg. Rosberg taking over in the 6th spot as you watch Nigel Mansell continuing to lead.
Keke Rosberg actually should be in this race with a pretty good chance, because he and his teammate Jack Lafitte are the only people wearing an apparatus, a cool hat, a skull cap which goes under the helmet, and it's an incredible device, the Dennis Carlson cool suit, and it really does work, and they're the only two people here with it, and I think as the race wears on, it's really going to help those two drivers.
Nigel Mansell, who likes to refer to himself as the street fighter, he likes these tight courses, artificial courses such as they have at Detroit. We'll see how much he likes this one. He was exhausted at Detroit.
Well, he's going to be exhausted here because apart from the fact that it's very tight, it's also very bumpy. You can see that from the way all their heads and wings are shaking about. And that in itself takes a tremendous physical toll on you.
Elio De Angelis lies in second. De Angelis has not finished worse than 7, and he's finished every race this year 14 Lotus, and he lies well in the points, currently 3rd.
Right behind him, Derek Warwick, also from Britain, and behind there we see Nicky Lauda coming around that corner, losing a bit of ground on this leading trio. And in fact, Derek Warwick looks to me as if he can get by De Angelis, he'd probably pull away from him a little bit.
A pass being attempted here as Warwick tries to move in the Renault, and those are both Renault-powered cars.
Get very close to the wall there on that left-hand sweep as they come down this tight, very bumpy braking approach to this tight first gear hairpin. Accelerate up through 3 gears there. Back 1 for the turn that's right here in front of our announcing booth. Nigel Mansell building up a reasonably healthy lead as he bumps into that turn 1 double right-handed complex. There we start to see him turn left. Tricky corner that, very tricky.
Mansell closing up to lap Ayrton Senna now.
Nigel coming up to lap somebody already, and it is in fact Johnny Cecotto in the other Tolman.
And so the race is underway. Some said the drivers might take 6 laps and bring them in. Here's a low-angle shot as you watch Nigel Mansell trying to get around that lap car, and it really brings them right down to the gearbox to go first. Tough, tight course, and then some extreme. This course is about 10 miles an hour faster than the course at Detroit. Just as twisting, just as serpentine.
Now Nigel Mansell will be, his blood pressure will be rising unbelievably as Johnny Cecotto consistently holds him off and won't let him by. And there's nothing more irritating, I can tell you, than when you're trying to lap a slower car and he won't let you by. And it's not as if Johnny Cecotto is exactly in the running at the moment.
The 2-time world motorcycle champion from Venezuela now lets Nigel Mansell through. Waved him through after they went through those hard series of S's. Mansell looking for his first world championship race for possible 9 points here today. There in the background, you see Elio De Angelis and Derek Warwick. Here's Warwick challenging for another time. And Warwick is finding the line to take 2nd place.
Braves his way through there, because you've got to be brave here, because if it all goes wrong and you just tag the wall, that's all she wrote, as Mario Andretti would so pathetically say. Over another of those packed surfaces. This is a tight right-hander there, first gear.
There you see.
And Derek Warwick has in fact put a lot of daylight between himself and Elio De Angelis down this pit straight here as they go through that right and left complex. It'll be interesting to see if he can make any ground on this man, Nigel Mansell, who's got a very comfortable lead at the moment.
Nigel Mansell's lead beginning to evaporate. There's that lap car, the factor, and closing ground rapidly is Derek Warwick in the 2nd position, followed by Elio De Angelis. Let's go to Chris Economaki. Let's see if we can get a word from Chris Economaki on pit road.
That first lap pit stop by one car for tires, uh-oh, here comes another one, has alerted everyone to the possibility of emergency tire changes. Every team in pit road has their tireman out, and now we just have the 2nd car coming in. That broken up part of the track is apparently a concern to those along pit road as far as tires are concerned. Back to you, Ken.
So there's the story. It is a tire story, as you see Senna's car in and coming on the track, or rather Cecotto's car. No, Senna's car.
Senna's car.
Senna's car back in the pit, changing tires, and here we are back once again with Nigel Mansell, who is set on the pole the first day a couple of times this year, but not seen it stand up. At Monaco, first day of qualifying, he was there and then slid back. But here, after the first day, he didn't even elect to run the 2nd day and pulled it off. Car number 12, Nigel Mansell for Lotus, trying to bring them back into winning form.
There's no doubt about it, the Lotus car this year has improved tremendously. The Renault engine is very strong. pretty reliable. And the Lotus chassis now that Gerard Ducarouge, the Frenchman who worked for Matra and for Renault, has joined the team. The chassis has really improved tremendously, and this could be their first win.
Now this race is scheduled for 68 laps or 2 hours, whichever comes first. We'll be back with more from the 1984 Dallas Grand Prix in a moment. After 5 of 67 laps, Nigel Mansell leads with a 3-second advantage over the second-place competitor, Derek Ward, and Elio De Angelis is maintaining third. We see Niki Lauda still in fourth. Keke Rosberg is holding the 5th position now. Sixth is Prost, 7th is Tom Alboreto is 8th.
Keke could be in with a good chance later on in this race wearing that cool hat. It's going to help him a lot, although that car hasn't proven to be particularly reliable this year.
The average speed of the leader in the last lap was 81.599 miles per hour.
Derek Warwick making a lot of ground on Nigel Mansell now, catching up handily, but that average speed, of course, brings to mind yet another complication for the Dallas Grand Prix, and that is that the average speed they're setting at the moment, this race will run for more than 2 hours. So instead of being a 67-lap race, it'll turn into a timed race, and at 2 hours from the start, it will finish.
Back with the leader, Nigel Mansell. Meanwhile, further back, Niki Lauda has now passed De Angelis and has moved into third position. Lauda for Team McLaren, working on his 22nd Grand Prix win and his third of the year, has now moved up a spot to be third overall in the Dallas Grand Prix. Back with Mansell another time. Nigel Mansell of Great Britain throwing this beautiful Lotus Renault-powered car around the course. The man who was a handicapped 4 golfer and an excellent play pigeon shot, taking dead aim at winning the Dallas Grand Prix and winning his first World Championship race. Here he is, Mansell still in the front-running position, and Derek Warwick is definitely closing ground. The 3-second advantage he was enjoying is now beginning to slip.
Yes, well, they both got the same power output, and I have a feeling that the Lotus chassis is slightly better than the Renault, but I wouldn't want to be racing Derek Warwick around here today. He's an extremely accomplished driver.
So 2 English drivers now lead the Dallas Grand Prix. One for an English team and the other for a French team, both turbo-powered cars. And these 600 to 700 horsepower turbo cars flashing right by us now, they may strangulate out here.
Well, they're obviously going to generate a tremendous amount of heat, and I guess that Nigel was hoping for a relatively easy run. But if he gets pushed hard by Derek Warwick, obviously they're going to have to keep the boost up. That keeps the temperature up. And of course, everything gets hot, from oil to water to tires, and of course, not least the driver. The harder he works, the hotter he gets.
Nigel Mansell, whose ambition is to win a Grand Prix race and then become the first amateur to win the British Open Golf. There's a battle for 10th. You see 5 cars there.
There we see a whole galaxy of cars there, led by, that's Eddie Cheever, car number 23, being hotly pursued by a whole gaggle of cars. Babby, Stefan Beloff, Kinzani, and the Ferrari of Arnoux coming up at the back there.
Tires still are the issue of the moment. Let's go back to the pits for this report.
Well, I'm with Peter Gedding, an Englishman who knows what it's like to win a Grand Prix against another Englishman, won the Italian Grand Prix against Mike Hailwood. Peter, a battle between 2 English drivers. We haven't seen that for a long time.
No, it's nice to see, especially over here in the States.
Who's going to win the battle?
At the moment, I'd put money on Derek. I think over the race distance, providing his car doesn't have a problem, I'd have a good bet on him.
You've had 2 cars come in. You've had Ayrton Senna and Cicotto come in. What was the tyre situation on those 2 cars?
Cicotto came in after the first lap with a puncture on a left front. We can't see a reason for it. Senna came in because he was 4th on the first lap. He spun on the 2nd lap. 3rd lap, he did a very quick lap. 4th lap, he clipped a curb and put a puncture in the right rear, so he's had to come in and change the wheel also.
Are we going to have other people coming in for unscheduled tyre pit stops?
I think you're going to have 2 hours of unscheduled tyre stops, amongst other stops, all sorts of stops.
Thank you. Back to you, Ken.
Nigel Mansell, who these days lives on the Isle of Man, right near the famed TT motorcycle course there, leading with Derek Warwick, 2 drivers who have yet to taste victory in a World Championship race, running 1 and 2 in the event. The twice world champion Niki Lauda is in third. De Angelis falls to fourth. Rosberg is fifth. Prost is sixth. And let's look at the battle for third. And continuing to build up. Niki Lauda continues to wind them in here.
Niki Lauda is one of the most vociferous people that wanted this race at least postponed for a few hours. But as usual, once he's out there, he's putting on a fantastic show. Got round Elio De Angelis, and of course there, right behind Elio De Angelis, is Keke Rosberg in the Honda Williams. Also a very strong contender in this race.
Patrese has just pitted the second V8 Alfa Romeo turbo car, and we noticed that Cheevers covers his helmet over with that aluminum foil that is also being used by both of the Brabham teams today. Another way to cope with the heat.
Stefan Belof's come to grief again. Stefan's an extremely fast driver, one of the young lions, but he does have a tendency to hit things rather at the moment.
Stefan Beloff of West Germany, who had that brilliant third place at Monaco.
He was in that very violent race there for 8th or 10th through 16th position that we were looking at a few moments ago.
In 9th position when he went off. There's Stefan Beloff walking away from the Dallas Grand Prix.
Not a good day for Ken Tyrrell, because his other driver, Martin Brundle, also a young Englishman, hit the wall the other day and broke his ankle and a bone in the other leg. So he'll be out of action for about 8 weeks. And there's Ken's had a pretty expensive weekend, and neither driver's going to finish, obviously. Nigel Mansell being now very hotly pursued by Derek Warwick.
Nelson Piquet, the winner of the last 2 Grand Prix, is on the move. He started 12th today, and he has moved up to 8th as he tries to win 3 in a row.
Nelson Piquet's car looked very good to me in practice. I was watching in some of the bumpier corners. It seemed to handle the bump pretty well. But Nelson himself has a little bit of a problem with the heat. But he also has tremendous determination. If he wants to keep going, he damn well will. I think Chris has got something to say to us in the pits.
Yes, I'm with Jean Sarge, the team manager for Renault. John, Warwick is closing on the leader. What is the strategy? A non-stop race or what with a pit stop?
You know, we decide during the race because we are in relationship with drivers through the radio, and if the tires are last the whole race, we will not stop. But you know, it's a decision we can take at every moment during the race because we talk to the drivers.
Good for you. Thank you very much, Jean Sarge. Back to you, Kevin.
Well, I'm with the only American driver in the race. Eddie, it must be a very big disappointment for you, this.
It's not really a big disappointment because the car really wasn't running that well. We had a bit of problems. I was losing turbo pressure from the first lap, so I was having a lot of problem coming out of the hairpins.
Eddie, you're the only driver we've been able to talk to who's been on this controversial track. What's it like?
I didn't hear your question, sorry.
Oh, back to Ken. We'll come back to Eddie Cheever in a moment.
There is the second place car, Derek Warwick's car, which has come up against the retainer. Derek Warwick, who is running in second place, is another victim of this Dallas Grand Prix. His car bunched up against the tire retainers.
Well and truly jammed in there. It looks like it's on the apex of a corner, so they might have to do some slowing of the field down here to extricate him. What a shame for Derek Warwick. He was going so well. Niki Lauda now starting to apply a bit of pressure on this man, Nigel Mansell, running in the lead, but Niki Lauda is not far behind him, and not a good guy to have running very close behind him.
So as Warwick goes down, Lauda goes to second, De Angelis to third, Rosberg moves to fourth, Prost goes to fifth, Patrick Tambay to sixth, Nelson Piquet comes up a spot to seventh. As we watch Derek Warwick walking away. Moving up to eighth is De Cesaris, and then comes Michele Alboreto next.
Tambay, Piquet, and De Cesaris, in fact, having a pretty good old dice down there in wherever they are. 7th, 8th, and 9th spot.
We have a replay of what happened to the second place car.
Well, it looks as if he was trying to take first away from Nigel.
Shot it in there and overshot the corner.
Yeah, he was trying to outbrake him into that chicane, which is one of the few places here that you can pass people. And Nigel obviously wasn't going to let him in easily and paid the penalty.
Let's go to Barry Gill.
Well, Eddie Cheever, you've just heard that the second place man, Derek Warwick, has crashed. You're the only man we can talk to who's been out on that track. What is it really like?
It's worse than driving in the wet because you have certain parts of the track that you have grip on. The other ones are just, there's pebbles, as if it's pouring rain in 110 degrees. The track is really slippery. All I did is I went a little bit faster into a corner, got a little bit wide, and that was it. I was lucky not to run into the wall. I just nicked the tire and I hurt the back rear suspension. But believe me, it is slippery out there, and it's a feat just to be able to stay on the track for the whole race.
Eddie, should the race have been started?
Yes, I think so. We came here to race, and that's what we're going to do. And I believe the organizers made a mistake not putting the asphalt down beforehand. And I hope that next year they learn from the lesson, they do a better job than they did this year. The track is good, except there's a big mistake in the way they put the asphalt down, and it's coming up.
A positive reaction from Eddie Cheever. We hope we see you win here next year, Eddie. Thanks for talking to us. Back to you, Ken.
Eddie Cheever, out of Arizona, the only American in Grand Prix racing, and as at Detroit, his V8 Alfa Romeo has problems in the going. A bad break for Eddie Cheever, who wanted to perform well here. As you note, the Lotuses are back running 1 and 2, relegating Nicky Lauda back to the 3rd position.
Well, De Angelis is obviously driving very well. Now, I don't know, but it looks as if Nigel must be having a problem, because De Angelis is winding him in ever so quickly, and so, of course, are the other 4 cars in that group. There we see the world champion leader at the back of that group, Alain Prost, number 7. Just in front of him is Keke Rosberg, and in front of him, of course, is Nicky Lauda. And here's the 2 leaders, and it looks as if Nigel's losing steam somewhere.
Proust in the 5th position. Front 5 all together, and Nigel Mansell trying to fend them off.
That's as good a race as you'll see in Formula 1 right there for the top 5 positions.
There's Proust in the tail end of that quintet. And here comes a challenge for the lead.
Ooh, don't take both Lotuses out, Nigel.
Nigel Mansell stays in front after 11 laps, working the 12th lap. If it goes to laps, they will have 67 laps to run. But the feeling generally is it will be stopped by the clock at the end of 2 hours. Now, most of the Formula 1 races have been running a 1 hour 35 minute to a 1 hour 45 minute period this year.
We've just had a message that I guess Elio De Angelis overtook Nicky Lauda under the yellow, and that may mean some sort of a penalty.
Nigel Mansell again pulling away. A very likable driver who likes tight, tough courses. Here you see Lauda 3rd, Rosberg in 4th, and the current number 1 driver in the world, Prost in 5th.
Apparently Nigel Mansell overtook on the yellow. I guess Warwick must have got in front of him, and then Nigel retook him under the yellow, so that could mean a penalty for Nigel at the end of this race.
The 6th position, the last point counting position, now goes to Team Renault. Patrick Tambay is in the 6th, and just outside is Nelson Piquet of Brazil in 7th for Team Bravo. So the Lotuses continue to run 1 and 2, shades of 1978 here in Dallas, Texas. And welcome back to Dallas, Texas with World Championship round number 9. The Stroh's Dallas Grand Prix is 14 laps deep, with Nigel Mansell trying to win his first Grand Prix championship race. Elio De Angelis, his teammate, lies there in 2nd overall, and they continue to fluctuate the positions just behind. Keke Rosberg is now being shown as in the 3rd position. The Williams Honda having one of its better days right now.
Yeah.
Back in the 4th and 5th position, nose to tail, come the McLaren, the tag Porsches. And as they run, it is Lauda, followed directly by Prost. And then lurking just behind them comes Patrick Tambay. Here's a report from Chris Economaki.
Okay, I have Derek Warwick here, who just took a long walk back. A tough break, Derek. You look very hot. What is the heat like today?
The car was very good. Everything was perfect. I was having trouble right from the start with the car pulling. And when I went into the braking for Mansell, he just caught me out, braked.
How are the repaired portions of the track?
Pardon?
How are the patches on the track?
Are just diabolical. The hairpin in particular is really broken up quite badly, but you know, it's raceable. It's not as, you know, it's as bad as it is at Zolder. We had a problem with Zolder. It's about the same.
Tough break. Thanks very much, Derek. Back to you, Ken.
The front 3 into the main straightaway, and closing rapidly is Rosberg. The Williams Honda, the Honda-powered turbo car, is moving up on those 2 leaders.
Well, there's a lot of people say that the Honda engine, in fact, although it's a 6-cylinder, has got the most power currently in Grand Prix racing, and that could be anywhere from 700 to 1,000 at the current state of the art. These cars give huge amounts of horsepower. In the race, they cut it down a bit because of the fuel limit, but they still race on about 700, 725 horsepower, which with a car weighing 1,200 pounds is plenty.
Most wins in a season went to Team Lotus in 1978 with 8 wins recorded. Mario Andretti collecting 6 that year, and the late Ronnie Peterson 2. For the black and gold of Team Lotus continuing to run first and second here, but now feeling the power of Williams as Rosberg is having absolutely one of his best days thus far in 1984.
And they're coming up to lap Dr. Jonathan Palmer in the Skull Bandit, and Jonathan is not one of the easiest people in Grand Prix racing to lap, but he is in fact making extremely big effort there to let them all through. Good old Johnny, I say. I expect that's what they were saying as well. Not so good for Jonathan, though, who's obviously having another bad day. His Formula 1 racing this year hasn't been too good, and he, in fact, is at the opposite end of the spectrum from a Keke Rosberg or a Elio De Angelis, in as much as Palmer himself is having to pay some money to keep himself in that seat. He's having to find the money to keep himself in that seat.
Nigel Mansell, the man who hates hotels, but loves racing more than anything, had a terrible crash back in 1977, has made a fine comeback, was a test driver for Lotus for some time, continues to lead. The issue is, can he stay there and win this race?
Well, Rosberg's going to give him a hard time at the moment, breathing down the neck of those 2 low tires. And the 2 McLaren seem to have faded just a little bit at the moment, but I feel sure that once Prost gets around Niki Lauda, he'll put on a pretty strong charge in the front. There we see them come into view now, and right behind them now is Patrick Tambay in the other Renault. In fact, having a go at Lauda, Prost has got by Lauda, and Patrick Tambay wants to get by too.
Prost picking up a position to take 4th, Lauda back to 5th, and there you see Tambay in 6th. As you recall, earlier this year, Rosberg finished 2nd at Brazil, but by the end of Brazil, there just weren't many cars running. Thus far today, for the Williams Honda, this has been an outstanding performance as they continue to keep him right in the hunt for that first position. Back with the leaders. And here is Mansell, who looked for a while like he was having trouble, but that's not the story now. There are 16 laps complete, and if it runs by the clock, there is 1 hour, 29 minutes, and 2 seconds remaining in the event. After a half hour, 16 laps down. This race could well be decided by the clock, and I think that would be the first time in modern history that we've seen it come down. It's a 2-hour limit on a Formula 1 Grand Prix race.
I'm sure it's going to be decided by the clock, because the average speed they're setting is vastly different to the speed that they all thought they would do around here. Tremendous race going on at the back of the field again, but unfortunately, where my man Bootson's getting wiped up again.
Battle for the race. Nigel Mansell first. Elio De Angelis maintaining that 2nd position. And there is the Finnish world champion of 1982, Keke Rosberg, maintaining 3rd.
Keke known to American viewers, of course, for his sterling efforts in the Cannon a few years back.
De Angelis, an enormously wealthy family in Italy, runs the largest construction company in Rome. And his father goes to most of the F1 races.
There's Elio having another go at his teammate.
Elio De Angelis in the number 11. He says that when it's over, he wants to be a composer. He plays pretty good piano.
Well, he can go to the bar and tune tonight.
I don't think he'll be ready for it.
His little old fingers will be a bit tired.
De Angelis changing his line and making a shot at Mansell once again as they come down. Now, this is where Nigel Mansell was telling me he found the quickest part of the course. Right here. It's into this arcing right corner that he says you can get about 150, 155 miles an hour. And although there's some straightaways that look faster, that's not the case.
That looks like Hubi Rothengarter, the Dutch driver, driving the Spirit Cosworth. Qualified fairly low down on the field, and obviously something's either gone wrong or he's hit something. Couldn't see from that. Couldn't have been too bad because they were rolling the car.
3-car battle for the lead continues. Here's Barry Gill.
Well, it's a long time since we've had a top German driver, but one man who really wanted to do well here was Stefan Belloff. As you remember, the Tyrrell's finished 2nd in Detroit. Stefan, what happened to you today?
I like to go very slow the first laps. I go behind Fabi without problems. The car is good, and the track was so slippery. and then maybe I make a mistake, but I was so slow in the corner. Come out with the 2 out tires on the cement, and the car slides straight in the wall. So I can nothing do, and it's very bad for me. But I like to go here on the points, and now I have no chance again.
What you're really saying, Stefan, is that the new cement was really responsible for your retiring.
Yeah, sure.
Do you think the race should have been held?
No. The asphalt, they come off in front of the happen totally. The whole stones are on the track. It's very, very bad.
How many finishes do you think there are going to be?
Maybe I hope I can finish in the points, of course, but no.
How many finishes do you think there'll be in the race now, Stefan?
Yeah. I think only 6 cars.
Chris, a pessimistic forecast from Stefan Boller. Over to you.
Yeah. With the Team Lotus cars running 1-2, years ago in Formula One, that would be a team operation. They would combine to keep anyone from passing. Now, no one will admit that that practice is followed in this day and age, but it will be interesting to watch to see if any of that kind of teamwork is ordered from the pits for those the drivers of those 2 black cars. Back to you, Ken.
Finnish driver Rosberg, as you watch, took over 2nd place, relegated De Angelis to 3rd. Keke Rosberg now in 2nd and closing on Mansell. So the Lotus team has been split by the Williams Honda. The laps complete. Now stand at some 19 laps now completed. 19 in the record book, and there remains 1 hour, 24 minutes to be run in the event. Here's Nigel Mansell still in the 1st position. Rosberg there now attacking.
He's got a real handful there. Rosberg having a go at him now. Mansell going to get by this time. Rosberg is really going to go here at old Nigel. He's going to try and wear him down. Mind you, Nigel's no mood to be worn down. He wants to win this Grand Prix, be his first ever.
Here he comes another time.
They touched wheels, I think, then.
1,200-pound car, you touch wheels, and that may be the end of any touching or feeling for some time.
Yeah, it's not like a 4,000-pound NASCAR car. This is serious stuff when these wheels touch, because they're obviously very sticky tires. Rosberg seems to have got more acceleration there out of that hairpin, but still can't quite use it. There we see them screaming down the pit straight now. Both of them pulling away from Elio De Angelis. So I think that when Nigel was in the lead and Angelis was behind him, that Nigel was deliberately keeping the pace down to try and conserve the car, because they're both pulling away very quickly now from De Angelis, and obviously there's no conservation now. Nigel wants to stay in the lead.
Back in the 4th position is Prost. Lauda is in 5th, and Patrick Tambay is in the 6th position. Piquet is 7th, Arnoux is 8th, Corrado Fabi is running 9th, Michele Alboreto is 10th. Well, thus far the track does seem to be holding together out here, David.
Well, the drivers have got out and complained about a bit of marbling, but it certainly can't be seen on some of those close-in corner shots, and I don't think it can be all that bad. No, it obviously is holding up quite well.
Whenever you build a new course like this, remember the first Detroit Grand Prix, you always come up with something slightly amiss, because it's an entire artificial course. Very hard to put one of these things together. Plus, we're just delighted we didn't get delayed at the start.
Course builders and promoters also seem to have a perverse delight in laying asphalt as near the race date as possible. They always talk about how it's going to be laid with plenty of time to cure, and they in fact always lay it, preferably the day before the race.
Here he comes. Rosberg again is sideways and almost blew it and lost it, picked it back up. Hadn't been a champion, you'd have had a couple of walls there.
Nigel's the one that's under pressure, but Rosberg is inclined to try a little bit too hard sometimes, and really there's a long way to go in this race yet, and if he can just keep hounding away at Nigel, there's no need to go and bust the car up to get by him.
I think that 3rd place car, De Angelis, is just taking a wait-and-see situation here.
Well, yes, if you see 2 guys racing like that in front of you, there's a fairly good chance that you're going to be instantly elevated to 1st position. Yes, so he's going to wait and see.
The 20-lap average speed has been 80.673 miles per hour in round 9 of the 1984 World Championship. Coming to you from Dallas, Texas, with a 3-car battle for the lead. Mansell still stays in front and now has himself about an 8-car length advantage over the second-place Finnish driver Keke Rosberg, and then the Italian Elio De Angelis maintains third.
Rosberg dropping back into the clutches of Elio De Angelis now. Maybe Rosberg put on such an effort in those 3 or 4 laps there that he's gone and cooked his tyres. There's no doubt about it that the chassis on the Lotus at the moment is better than the Williams chassis. They've had problems with that chassis all year, and it could be that if he drives as hard as he's just been driving, his tyres just won't wear it.
Alain Prost is moving up. The 4th place McLaren is on the move, and we'll be back with more of the 1984 Stroh's Dallas Grand Prix in a moment. Niki Lauda has just turned the fastest lap in the race, a reading of 1 minute 45 and 3/10 of a second, about 82.8 miles per hour, as Lauda has cranked it back in another time. Nigel Mansell continues to be the leader, with Rosberg dogging him in 2nd place. And in 3rd place, it is still Elio De Angelis here in race 9 for the World Championship. From here, it's on to Great Britain as they're overlapping one of the Arrows cars.
Yeah, they're overlapping Mark Scherer there, and he's a fast enough back marker to be a decided nuisance as they try and lap him. There you see him just been passed by Rosberg, and now Elio De Angelis is going to try and squeeze by him. That's given Nigel Mansell another small break there, giving him a bit of free room between himself and Keke Rosberg.
6th position overall.
No, there's a good shot there. You can really see how the track, in fact, is breaking up there. That's a marvelous shot of the track. And there's... no, nothing. I think it just
slowed down dramatically.
Well, I think it probably hit some of those marbles. Yes, so that one shot there, you can really see the 2 wheel tracks between the gravel. And if they get onto that gravel, that is goodbye Dallas 84.
Patrick Tambay back in the 6th position. Nelson Piquet remains in 7th. And for Team Ferrari, Arnoux is shown in the 8th position now. Battle is right here for the lead. Nigel Mansell stays in 1st. The man who sold his house back in 1978 to finance his racing with a March car. Money soon ran out, but somehow he is held on. And now here he is at the pinnacle of racing in Formula One competition. And these courses, they may not be the favorites of the drivers, but they certainly provide some wild action, some pretty close competition, as we've seen in Detroit and now we're seeing here in Texas.
Well, the narrow course makes it difficult to overtake, and if anybody that's a little bit off the pace gets in front, of course, it keeps the field really close together and does give the poorer handling cars a bit of a chance to show up reasonably well on it in a funny sort of a way, even though there's a lot of tight corners. And that's why you get this tight competition on these tighter courses.
There you see the front 2. Prost has moved up on Elio De Angelis, as you see right there. That was Elio De Angelis and Prost, and there they are a second time. That is the battle for the 3rd position going on, as Alain Prost for Team McLaren has really gathered up some ground, and there's Niki Lauda just behind them running in the 5th position. Here's Chris Economaki.
Chris, you've changed your
This man is Mr. Kawamoto, the president of Honda Research, watching carefully Keke Rosberg's performance on the racetrack. I'm standing here in the Williams pit. We asked about the strategy. Will there be a pit stop? And the answer was, we can't tell you. They won't say yes, and they won't say no, and that's the answer all up and down the road. They want to keep everybody guessing. But that man, Kawamoto, is waiting for the first win for his V6 engine. Back to you, Ken.
I thought we told Chris not to wear those shorts.
High fashion. Chris Economaki.
Here we see that pretty desperate race for the lead still going on. Keke Rosberg giving Nigel Mansell here in the John Player Special a pretty hard time. And the track, obviously, there you can see more of that gravel in the background there on that shot. It sweeps away, gets swept up by the wheels, but once you get those wheels on it, you absolutely have it.
Track temperature at about 110 degrees. I think they could call this one the Microwave 500. It is warm out there. Here's a report from Barry Gill.
Well, Ken, you said it. We've talked about the drivers, we've talked about the track, but what about the heat in these cars? these exotic vehicles really don't like this Texas heat wave. We've seen plumbers at work virtually putting ducting not only to cool the brakes and cool the engine, but actually pipes going to the driver's overalls. They've tried every trick in the book. They're worried about the gearbox oil, they're wondering about the engine water, the engine oil, and of course the tyres. And just look what the McLaren team are doing to preserve their tyres. That's to try and keep these tyres somewhat cool in case there's going to be a pit stop for Prost and for Lauda. But the interesting thing about this foil is, I don't know if you've noticed, but Nelson Piquet and Fabi have actually wrapped their helmets in it to reflect the heat. David, they're trying every trick in the book.
Well, on a day like today, Barry, you absolutely have to. And there you see that gravel again, the shiny bits where the tyres are. You just get into that grey-looking stuff, and you've had it. And of course, with this heat, concentration is at a premium, and of course, with a very, very narrow track, now reduced, in fact, to just the 2 widths of the tyres because of the gravel, concentration is at a premium, and it's very hard to concentrate when you get overheated. And some of these drivers probably will get near to a real technical overheating stage.
These cars, inestimable in value, have been chopped up, made to look like cheese in the front. This number 12 car of Mansell, they sawed 4 more. There's Nelson Piquet now. And there's that helmet that's aluminum foil, a different looking helmet than usual for Nelson Piquet, who's just outside of a scoring position. Only 6 cars receive points, and he is back there in 7th. Nelson Piquet, who has won the last 2 races in a row, seeking his 3rd in a row today. The last man to do that was Alan Jones in '79, and then before that it was Lauda back in 1975. Piquet in 7th, waiting on attrition. Bound to have some before it's over. And there's part of it right there. Slowing.
Another wheel off. There's his wheel. That's Patrick Tambay's right rear wheel, either neatly taken off on a piece of wall or it fell off. But I would suspect that he probably just clipped something. I don't know whether we're going to have that on the replay, but he probably just clipped it and it just whipped the wheel off, as we saw Stefan Beloff do last week or 2 weeks ago in Detroit.
6th place car. Tambay is now out of it, and Piquet will move into the 6th position. Again, the battle for the lead. Mansell of England, Rosberg of Finland, in this struggle to win.
There's that gravel. Look at them tiptoeing around there.
It continues to be Nigel Mansell in 1st, and once again pulling up Rosberg, trying to find some running room and not getting through. We'll be back with more live coverage of the Dallas Grand Prix after this word from your local station. At the Dallas Grand Prix, Nigel Mansell continues out in front from the point where he began the event after 27 laps have been completed of 67, and 1 hour, 10 minutes, 41 seconds remaining to be played. The front 5 have all closed in again. Only 5-second separation over the front 5 in the field as Mansell is not running as quickly. Let's go to Barry Gill.
Well, Ken, I'm sure the teams down here would love to have heard that first 5. You remember in Detroit, Chrissy Colomaki telling us about the $600,000 monitoring system so that everybody knew exactly which car was where? Well, at the moment it's broken down, so they're back to something they used to use. Pretty girls, and in this case, this is Nora Tyrrell, the wife of Ken Tyrrell, who can still keep a perfect lap chart just with a pencil, a stopwatch, and an India rubber. Sometimes the old traditions are better than the modern fangled ideas. Back to you, Ken.
Well, we just saw Prost slap the wall, and he started to fall dramatically back. Car number 7 tagging the wall with a right rear wheel.
But what is interesting is that on that last lap, the lap times of those front 5 cars varied. Nigel Mansell did a 1-minute 52nd lap down to Niki Lauda, who did a 46-second, 1 minute 46, so it was 4 seconds separating the lap time, and which is why, of course, they've wound Nigel in again. He's obviously driving a very canny race. He knows that the paths for overtaking are getting more and more restricted as this race goes on. As the track becomes more and more gravelled up, chances for overtaking get worse and worse.
Although you saw Prost thrashing that car up into the concrete for a moment, that McLaren, he did not become a DNF. It's still in there and still running. There you see it in 4th position. While we're talking about attrition, let's take a look at that right now. After 27 of the 67 laps have been completed, Haino, one of the first retirees, followed by Stefan Beloff. The American Eddie Cheever has fallen by the wayside. Derek Warwick had trouble with the Team Renault car. Andre de Cesaris, Patrick Tambay, latest retiree. 19 remaining, and 5 cars running within 5.5 seconds of each other for the lead. Makes it one of the most competitive races thus far this year.
Well, obviously one doesn't want to be a pessimist in the middle of one's TV show, but it must be pointed out that Detroit 2 weeks ago, only 6 cars finished, and it was nothing like such a fast and furious race as this. It wasn't as hot, it wasn't such a closely fought contest, and it makes you wonder how many of these guys are going to finish. The way these are racing, we could be down to about 2 finishes.
Rosberg determined in second place. Mansell there. D'Angelo stays lurking in third. Another challenge for the lead.
Oh, Rosberg's got to shaking his fist now. Well, when you're racing for the lead, you don't expect the guy to give way. When you're trying to lap somebody, you expect him to give way, but not when you're racing for the lead.
Here's Chris Economaki.
Well, I'm in Keke Rosberg's pit, and this is a crew that won't say whether it's getting ready for a pit stop or not, but as you can see, they put the dry ice in the watering can. Whether this is for the car or for the driver, we'll have to wait and see. Back to you, Ken.
It's for Macbeth next month in the Dallas Auditorium.
Rosberg in the second position with the Williams car, number 6. Chose that number 6 this year instead of the number 5, which he could have taken with his seniority in the team, because he won the world title in '82 with that number, and here he is trying to score another victory for 9 points here today. Challenging Mansell again. Ooh! They had themselves a little collection there.
Rosberg's not fearful of coming forward when it's coming to pass people. He's a pretty tough driver, and he's had a pretty miserable season so far, and he obviously wants now. Look at him tiptoeing through that corner. This is the sort of place where people are going to make slow mistakes. I mean, you can get on that gravel and not hit anything, but you can lose 10 seconds just like that.
Rosberg again challenging.
But the trouble is, the harder he drives at, the more he's taking out of his car, out of himself, out of his tyres. He may have the boost turned up a bit to try and get one over Nigel on acceleration. That could take it out of the engine. We don't know, but he's obviously trying very, very hard, and possibly at this stage of the race a little bit too hard.
Rosberg still showing a lot of judgment, a lot of restraint, and a great deal of discipline, and plain old-fashioned bravery right here as he closes again on Mansell.
I think you can see that Nigel's car is obviously easier to drive than Rosberg's. Nigel's chassis setup, the Lotus this year, is a great car, and I think Rosberg is having to drive a lot harder than Nigel Mansell to do what he's doing.
Not much question here, David, as opposed to Grand National racing that we'll be seeing at the end of July from Talladega, Alabama. The place you want to be here is right out in front.
Absolutely, because yeah, there's none of that slingshotting on the last lap's going to happen here, because Nigel could keep the door shut from now till the end of the race. Alan Prost has moved up to third. He's disposed of Elio De Angelis in the second Lotus. It'll be interesting to see if he can make any ground on these two leaders. Because the funny thing is about racing like this, in Formula racing on the streets especially, the harder you race, of course, the slower you go because you keep getting each other's way. Nigel keeps shutting the door so he doesn't take the ideal line. Keke Rosberg keeps trying to slip down the inside or the outside, so he's losing time. So it gives Prost a chance to catch them both up.
Change in third position now. Change in third.
Here we come onto that slippery bit. Look at him.
Here is
up there we see Rosberg got his back wheels onto it, slid around a little bit. Prost is back right on it.
Prost has been on the move, and he finds himself in third. De Angelis is back to fourth. Lauda is in fifth with 30 laps complete.
Obviously this race won't run the 67 lap distance now. It's going to be called off at the 2-hour mark because the average speed is way down on what they had estimated it would be.
Dr. Jonathan Palmer getting overlapped here by Nigel Mansell still in front.
Oh, now that's going to be bad for Rosberg too, because he got between him on that corner. Nice bit of placing there by Nigel. Put a lap car between them on a corner.
The temperature now at over 100 degrees here, just outside of our booth. And there, in this 2-hour period, is no time to send in the second unit. You're in there in all that clothing with all that fireproof underwear. It's just amazing to me that they don't have more. They lose 8 to 10 pounds. The dehydration factor isn't more debilitating than it is.
The main heat source is behind you, but of course the sun is shining right on you.
Here's Chris Economaki with Patrick Tambay.
Patrick, have you ever had a hotter day?
Well, hot it is, but it's not too bad actually. Once you're running and you're in the groove, and talking about groove, that's what where you have to be. It's not really too hot. The concentration is the most difficult factor because you really can't get away from the line half a foot. If you go half a foot, that's it. You clip the wall and you're in, and you're out.
What is the condition of the track now?
I guess it's bearable. It's awfully difficult because the outside line is very slippery. It's breaking up in most places, and it's very, very slippery. But it's bearable. Some guys are managing it, so good for them.
What happened to you?
Well, I was pushing a little bit, maybe too much, to come back on Nicky. We were all the Michelin riders seem to be closing in on the Lotus with no cars, and I thought that I had a good chance to close the gap a little bit, and I tried a little wide. Well, I didn't try, I missed it, and I got a little bit of the marbles on my outside tire, and I oversteered in the wall.
Great, Patrick. And now up to the British end of the pits and Barry Gill.
Well, I've been in the Tolman pit, and honestly, Chris, if you want to know how many cars are going to finish, you can realise that this team don't think many will. Johnny Cicotto came in having hit the wall with trouble with both the front and the back suspension, and these mechanics are actually working on it to try and get him back in the race. And the reason for that is that they think that perhaps 4 or 5 cars only will finish this race. And let me tell you that the worst race ever was in Monaco in '66 when 4 cars finished. But then there are only 16 starters. We began with 25. There aren't going to be 6 finishers.
The battle up in front. Still one of the best we've seen this year. We watch closing now in the 3rd position. Alain Prost of France with the tag Porsche McLaren red and white car. Porsche's had a great year with that tag Porsche. They've had 5 victories for the motor this year. Of course, the last one they had goes way back to when Dan Gurney drove. And Gurney had a victory for Porsche, in fact, the only one they had. Here is the leader, Nigel Mansell. 61 or 2, somewhere.
I'd only been racing 10 years, I remember it quite well. And there goes Rosberg having to go again on the outside, getting his wheels. See, as soon as he gets offline, even if there's no marbles there, it's all dusty and there's no real line there. And you get the wheels on that. When you're churning out 700 odd horsepower, the thing becomes slightly difficult to get foul.
Another challenge by Rosberg, another move for first place. And again he gets nipped. It's so hard to discipline oneself when he's trying for that spot, and every time you're almost there. But Rosberg, the former world champion, maintaining his cool under conditions.
Oh, a lot of smoke there from Nigel. Probably a tyre locking up as he made sure he stayed in front of Rosberg on braking. But
here comes Prost into it. Alain Prost in the McLaren is coming up on Rosberg, and he has the spot. Into 2nd, the current #1 driver in the world. Alain Prost is now 2nd, and there's a new challenger for Nigel Mansell.
Nicely executed move that was. He just Rosberg got a little bit phased, I think, when Nigel slid going into the corner. It slowed him up a little bit, got off the turbo boost, and really Alain took a perfect example, a perfect advantage of that, and just out-dragged him coming out of the corner.
Here he comes, challenging this very fast part of the course. The red and white car of Alain Prost. Mansell told me yesterday, he said, you just can't breathe in the cockpit here. He says, the hottest I've ever experienced, hotter than Brazil. He said, I'm not going to thank the designer of this track. It's the only circuit I know where you don't have time to breathe. Right now, he doesn't dare.
Alain Prost is going to give him a really hard time now.
Mansell had said it was going to be the toughest race ever, and he's the man that's created it as such. After 1 hour, laps completed were 33 of 67. Looks like the clock will decide it. 2 hours, the total time allowed for a Formula One race. And if it stops by the clock, it'll be the first time they've stopped it in the dry. We haven't had a rain condition or something like that. After 51 laps, the race will be official 75% of the distance. Here they are, all bunched up.
You won't see better than that for the first 5 places in any race, let alone a Formula One race, which can be a little bit processional. But this is an incredibly exciting race, and these guys just all over themselves. And Nigel Mansell controlling it all incredibly well from up the front.
Here is Prost trying to win the World Championship for the first time as a French driver. So many have tried, so many have come close. Last year he finished up in 2nd place, but was not able to pull it off. More of the 1984 Dallas Grand Prix here on CBS Live in a moment. After 35 of 67 laps, Nigel Mansell is still leading as he came off the point. We have another change for second place. Keke Rosberg has moved the Williams Honda back into second. Alain Prost has dropped back to third. DeAngelis is in fourth. Niki Lauda is in fifth. And Nelson Piquet runs in the sixth position. There you see the leaders in tight formation, and there you see the thermometer fluctuating just a little over the 100 mark here this afternoon. And the fluctuation is on the high side. Battle for the lead. And perhaps
somebody just tagged the wall there. Do you see that? I think it was Nigel. Just tagged the wall with his right rear wheel.
As he did that, it put Rosberg back up another spot, and he takes over for the first time today.
Rosberg's got white cement on the sidewall of his right rear tire as well. Now, whoa, Nigel, silly move.
Mansell started down, and you can see
now you watch Prost have a go now.
Waving his fist there for a moment. Looks in the rearview mirror. Rosberg checking his car and bringing his 1,200-pound machine through.
I think Rosberg was saying, well, up yours, mate. I mean, you've been doing that to me for the last half hour. See what you think of it. Now it'll be interesting to see if Rosberg can pull away and also not make any mistakes. Now's when he's going to be super careful here that he doesn't try to put too much daylight between himself and Mansell, make a bit of a mistake at one of these corners, and even if he might not hit anything, it could slow him right up, just like Mansell got slowed up when he tried to outbrake or re-outbrake Rosberg into that corner in a situation where Rosberg firmly had the door shut before they got there, and it almost brought Mansell to a complete halt.
Keke Rosberg, who had started the race in 8th position, now the leader. About to lap Corrado Fabi's car, one of the problems. Second place car falling dramatically back, and the battle will be for second position now. Look at that, Nigel Mansell trying to hold the position over Prost in the McLaren tag Porsche running third. Completed 36 laps. 36 laps are complete.
Now Rosberg, apart from anything else, could be keeping a lot cooler than the others. He's the only man, him and Jack Lafitte, his teammate, are the only two people here with a proper cooling system attached to them. Some of these other guys have put ice in their suit and they put air into their suits and so on. But these two gents have actually got a proper cool suit. And if that continues to work for the whole 2 hours, they'll be in great shape at the end compared to some of these other drivers.
Nigel Mansell falling back just after the midpoint of the race. Earlier we asked Nigel Mansell if he would have problems with concentration during the race due to the heat.
I don't think that's a problem because it's one of the circuits that's most demanding in the world. We had a lot of accidents yesterday, and you must concentrate on this circuit 100% all the time. You know, you haven't even got time down any of the short straights here to sort of relax and breathe and then get back to concentration for the next corner. You can't do that here. At Monaco you can, at Detroit you can, but here you can't. It's the only circuit I think I know of that you must concentrate 100% all the time.
Nigel Mansell.
And Alain Prost has moved into second speed as this man, Keke Rosberg, has really put some daylight between himself and second spot.
Mansell has just gone back to third place. Mansell falling to third now. We'll see if Prost can catch car number 6. Keke Rosberg.
Rosberg really putting in some quick times now. In fact, his last lap was a 1:46, which is a very good time for the track, considering the appalling condition it's getting in now.
Mansell continuing to fall back into fourth.
There we see Prost in second spot, and behind him, I guess, is DeAngelis now, and behind him is Lauda, and then behind him is
Mansell may have gone back to fifth here. Let's go to Chris Economaki.
Well, I'm at Keke Rosberg's pit, and I asked the question of his team manager if he could hang out all the way, and I was told I'd have to ask Keke. But his pit crew is standing here all ready to make a tire change if necessary, and one of the crew members has had a spare wheel nut in his mouth since the start of the race. So they're not sure he can make it all the way either. Back to you, Ken.
19 cars remain in competition. only 6, surprisingly, have retired under these torrid conditions.
Well, I must say that I thought by now we'd see at least half the field in the garage, but in fact we've only had just a few retirees. Prost seems to be catching up some of the daylight he lost on Rosberg, but Mansell seems to have slipped right back to 5th. Maybe when he touched that wall, he did a bit of damage to the suspension.
On the other hand, they were all bottled up around him, and the minute that bottle was open and they squirted through, he's been falling back. Sure looked like Rosberg made a move on him to just say, here's what it was like.
I think that's about what he did do.
Mansell is in 5th, and Nelson Piquet is running in 6th position, and Piquet is closing on Nigel Mansell. Nelson Piquet, who qualified well back for this event, Nelson Piquet qualified in the 12th position, is now about to take another spot. He is within a second and a half.
Oh, your actual Nigel Mansell, who has dropped back and who, when he went past the front of the box here, the announcer's booth, he looked to be going relatively slowly to me compared to the other leaders. Here we see Rosberg about to put a lap on Thierry Boutsen, who will be driving with yours truly next week at the Nürburgring in Germany.
Group C endurance?
In the Group C endurance race. I hope he does better there than he's doing here. And Rosberg slips by on the inside, Thierry giving him no trouble at all. Thierry driving one of the BMW powered Arrows cars. I don't think they've got the chassis and the engine matched too well yet, but obviously I wish him well as the season progresses. Prost is there in the back of that picture. He'll come into view right now in 2nd spot, not too far behind this gent, Keke Rosberg, and I think it's going to be a really strong race to finish.
Some 80,000 are here watching the race today. All kinds of folks out to enjoy this Grand Prix, which has been one of the best. Jimmy Carter, wife Rosalind, here today. There's Jimmy Carter looking on, enjoying the Dallas Grand Prix World Championship race for the first time in Texas.
Well, it cost them a lot of money to put this race on, but there's been a tremendous crowd turnout. The enthusiasm in the town has been absolutely incredible. I mean, much more than I thought it would be. There's an enormous crowd here today, and I really think they're getting their money's worth. This is one of the best Grand Prix we've seen for a long time.
Don Walker, the man who has been trying to resurrect the Can-Am series. Carol and Don Walker and Larry and Linda Waldrop, the people responsible, and they've put a year and a half of effort into this. And this morning,
Nigel Mansell's pulling into the pits. Nigel Mansell, our leader for the first 30-odd laps, into the pits.
Mansell running in 5th. This moves Piquet up into a point-scoring position. Moves him into 6th position for 1 point. Leader right here, Rosberg.
Must be to
5th, 39.
There they are, changing the wheels on Nigel's car. It moves Piquet actually into 5th spot.
I wonder how many of those other leaders are going to be here very shortly.
Well, it still could be where he just tagged the wall. Wheels spinning his way down the pit road there.
Looks like he pulled off one of his visors.
Yeah, well, they have those tear-off strips, which are, you can tear off up to 3 or 4 or 5 off your visor in case it gets oil or water or whatever on it. You just rip them off.
Motorcycles.
Of course, you know about the old. Ooh, Rosberg going through there. You can see that gravel now getting thicker and thicker on the outside of the corner. You get your wheels on there and you absolutely have it.
How do you compare this track to the Detroit track we saw 2 weeks ago here live on CBS?
Well, the Detroit track is more of a point and squirt. It has distinct street-type corners. You go down Linden Avenue or whatever and you make a sharp left and a sharp right. Here the road wanders around more, which makes it more difficult to overtake. The curves are harder to read. It's bumpier than Detroit. So generally speaking, like Nigel said on the interview, here you've really got to drive all the time. There's no straight bits at all. There's no straight braking into nice right-angle corners. It's all, it moves around a lot more. There we see Niki Lauda trying to get by Elio De Angelis in now what is the leading Lotus, running in 3rd spot. And they're both trying to get past De Angelis and Lauda. Now they're going to have to get by Thierry Boutsen. He's got the same sort of horsepower that they've got, but his car doesn't handle it. So he's going to really have to let them by. There we see Manfred Winkelhock.
An incredible congregation out here in the heat of the day in Dallas, Texas, over 100 degrees, watching this World Championship race. And there is Rosberg. Rosberg.
Sliding around there.
She's a dirt tracker.
Well, this chassis is not the best in the world. It's got a lot of horsepower, and it is a bit like a dirt tracker. And there's a lot of dirt tracking out there.
A late report on Nigel Mansell from Berrygill.
That wasn't the fastest pit stop that Lotus ever made, but perhaps it was one of the most cheerful. They obviously expected that Nigel had come in because of damage after that accident. The report is there's no damage to that car. He's now on fresh tyres, and I expect, Ken, to see him fighting his way back up through the field. He's the only one of the leaders, remember, with fresh tyres.
Well, as we've seen in NASCAR racing, fresh tyres very often is the key to a race win, because there's just something about a new tyre that makes it behave a lot better on the racetrack, and it will be a big advantage for him at this late stage in the race. About a half an hour to go, everybody else's tyres will be getting pretty worn down, very hot by now, and Nigel starting off on fresh tyres at this stage of the race could make a very dramatic charge up through the field.
The second-place driver, Alain Prost, can't contain this man here, Keke Rosberg, who continues to look like he's drawing away, and he can set his own pace. Fastest laps of the race are now being turned in by Keke Rosberg.
He's doing some pretty good laps too, 1:47. Mind you, that's still 10 seconds slower than they qualified, which just shows the trouble they go through in qualifying, with qualifying tyres, qualifying boost, and obviously light fuel load and so on.
Now another change at the back of the field. Arnoux has just passed Piquet to take up the 5th position. Arnoux for Team Ferrari has passed Nelson Piquet, so it will be Arnoux to 5th and Piquet to 6th in the standings and point counting position as we watch Rosberg, and you can just see in the back of your picture Alain Prost's car maintaining the 2nd spot. French have never won the world title. Last year, Piquet went at it with Prost right to the end of the season, and Piquet victorious by 2 points when it was all over. It's Rosberg now leading in our live coverage of the Dallas Grand Prix. The Stroh's Dallas Grand Prix here live on CBS Sports this afternoon. It has been one of the best battles of the year as Nigel Mansell dominated the first half of the event. But now Finland's Keke Rosberg for the Williams team, the Honda-powered car, is leading the event. Alain Prost of France for Team McLaren, the #1 driver in the world, is currently in the 2nd position. And there you see Niki Lauda. His car is in 3rd position. Rosberg is stretching it out. He leads Prost by 4.5 seconds. Lauda is 3rd, 14.4 seconds back from the leader, Rosberg. The average speed over the first 40 laps was 80.643 miles per hour. In practice, the track temperature hit 150 degrees. They say that's the highest ever recorded by the tire engineers. It's close to that today and should have an adverse effect on the tires in this race. I'm Ken Squire with David Hobbs, and there you're watching Rosberg, the leader. And once again, Prost is drawing up his forces to make another shot at first place and try to win his 4th Grand Prix of the year.
Well, I think on the tyre front, of course, they've all opted to run much harder tyres than they would normally do in a race. And so far, we've seen very little evidence of tyre, well, you know, very bad tyre wear or blistering. So they must be using rock-hard tyres, which, again, makes the car slide around. And get those on the old marbles, and you really know you're in trouble. And I just put a watch on Nigel Mansell. He's doing laps of 1:49, which rather dispels Lotus's hopes that he's going to make a charge to front. Whereas Rosberg's doing 1:49s and 1:47s as well, and he's had tyres on that have been there for the whole race.
DeAngelis in 4th, Arnoux is 5th, Nelson Piquet remains in the 6th position. 7th is given to Mansell, and the oldest driver in the race, Jacques Lafitte, 40 years old, is maintaining 8th, with 9th Michele Alboreto and 10th Thierry Boutsen. Some of the 80,000 over here in these air-conditioned tents, the Texas Suite. 80,000 out here braving this hot, humid day, the hottest conditions under which a Formula One race, the drivers say, has ever been run. Hotter than the race in Brazil or South Africa, which is at a much higher altitude. And the drivers are doing just yeoman work out here. Magnificent race thus far, and absolutely astounding that the attrition is only 9 cars. The latest attrition shows Patrese out, Chicotto, and the Rothengatter car have retired. 9 cars out of the 25 that started. We have completed some 43 of the 67 laps.
Well, I saw Prost going in there a bit deep and getting on those marbles, but apparently not.
Team Ferrari still on the attack here. That is Arnoux. just moved himself into the 5th position.
Now, René Arnoux, for some reason or other on that pace lap, something must have happened to him, and he started absolutely dead last. So he's had to wind his way right up to the field, and here he is, René Arnoux. Here he is right behind Elio De Angelis in the Lotus, who's dropped off the pace in the last 5 years, 5 laps. Since he lost his teammate, Nigel Mansell, he seems to have lost a bit of his go, and he's dropped back.
I wonder if the Lotuses are having some problems out here in the tire department, if the handle's gone away. Here is Arnoux closing up again. Currently 5th and making a shot at 4th.
Yeah, he's winding in Elio De Angelis there.
Yes.
Didn't have much of a day at Detroit. René.
Ferrari has won 1 race this year. Michele Alboreto winning the 3rd of his career in Belgium. Now Arnoux trying to get it back together. Trying to pick up a spot, Arnoux, as we follow this battle between Team Lotus and Team Ferrari.
And that's for 4th and 5th spot. De Angelis started on the front row. René Arnoux qualified very well, but something happened on the warm-up lap, and he in fact started the race dead last. So he's obviously had to pull right through the field and done very well at it. A lot of people thought when René Arnoux went to Ferrari from Renault 2 years ago that he would be world champion, but he's never in fact shown that world championship form again. And although he drives consistently well and consistently hard, he certainly doesn't really look like he's going to win the championship this year.
Arnoux, 5th, De Angelis 4th. 3rd is Lauda, goes to 2nd. And let's go back with the leader another time. Getting himself in some traffic here.
And there, right behind him, is old Alain Prost, not very far behind our leader, who's coming up some lap traffic. There's the other Ferrari, 27, Michele Alboreto, and there is Lafitte, Rosberg's teammate.
Give him some room here, just
putting him a lap down.
Lap Dr. Palmer for a second time.
Yeah, not having a good day. He's got to get by this Ferrari, he's got to get by Lafitte. And there, coming out of the background, is Alain Prost, lying in 2nd spot.
So the McLaren team continues to come out digging, and they've closed in again on the leader. We'll be back with more live coverage of the 1984 Dallas Grand Prix in a moment. 2-time world champion Nelson Piquet of Brazil, trying to win 3 races in a row, having won in Montreal and Detroit. Will not see it happen this year in this particular scheme. He has just crashed in the final turn, 16, directly below us, as he came onto the area of the start-finish line. Car up against the wall, and he has walked across the track and received a tremendous round of ovation from this Texas audience enjoying their first World Championship Formula One race. They've been a responsive audience. They have been enthusiastic. They've been cheering that battle up in front, where we've been watching all afternoon.
The whole town has been absolutely fantastic. There we see Nelson Piquet walking back into the pit lane, got a drink in his hand. I bet he was glad to get that. A smile on his face, but I don't expect he's all that happy. Until the last 2 races where he had 2 consecutive wins, he hadn't in fact finished a single race up to that stage. So not one of Nelson's best years, but consistently quick when he's been running, but he hasn't finished many. Look at this race for the lead. After all that schmozzle, there we see 1st and 2nd spot. What? 0.2 of a second apart, 1/10 of a second maybe. Alain Prost, current leader of the World Championship points, running, chasing down Keke Rosberg, who also has had a very good year in a Honda-powered Williams. They've done some work on the car for this week. Rosberg looking in his mirror there as he changes down, goes into the chicane. That long left-hander, which I keep thinking is a chicane. As they come down to the braking point for this first gear hairpin. Tremendous acceleration out of here, up to the point where Nelson Piquet's car, abandoned car, is lying stuck in the tyre wall. Prost changing sides, in and out, starting to really harry that car now as they come down the pit straight, past all the signalling boards, although Prost doesn't need a signalling board to tell him how far behind Rosberg he is.
Has 6 points in the bag right here in 2nd place, looking for the 9 that goes to the winner of a World Championship event. He currently leads the world standings with 34.5 points. Half points were given at Monaco in that 31-lap race there. Niki Lauda is currently number 2 in the world standings. De Angelis 3rd. Piquet has moved up to 4th prior to today, and Arnoux 5th. Piquet out of it just becoming the 10th retiree from the 25 starters. Laps complete are 47. We believe the race will end on the clock. There remain 32 minutes and 38 seconds to the run of the 2-hour prescribed time for Formula One. Rosberg stays in front, and there is Alain Prost right behind him in second position. Here's Barry Gill.
Well, Ken, as you and David have been stressing, the choice of tyres could decide who wins. Keke chose, as you see from this chart, a C tyre, which is one of the hardest tyres this particular company has ever made, whereas Alboreto and the other Ferrari driver I knew chose an A tyre. Nigel Mansell's on those C's as well, and I'm just told by one of the engineers it should give him a tremendous advantage. An interesting point for the folks at home: one set of those tyres costs over $500, and you know how few miles they've been lasting. Over to you now, Chris.
When the cars go by the pits and the pitmen have no cars to watch, they have the pit personnel like this young lady here who has an Alfa Romeo sticker on the bottom of her bikini. I thought she was from Italy. Where are you from, Lori?
Dallas.
Dallas. And what is it about these grimy, begrimed drivers that brings you to the Grand Prix?
Well, it's really exciting.
Who's your favorite driver?
This team, it's with the Ozella team.
The Ozella team, and they have two drivers. Which one do you like best?
I like all the Italians.
He just hasn't made up so long as he's Italian. Back to you, Ken.
Well, it's a Frenchman right now, Alain Prost, that finds himself into the front-running position. Prost going for win number 4 this year, the 13th of his career, has now gone out in front and is extending his lead over the second-place car, Rosberg.
Well, we saw a great move there by Alain Prost. Rosberg, as Barry pointed out, has got the hardest compound tyres on, which in fact Goodyear make, and the leader now, Alain Prost, is on Michelin, and it's a real tyre war this year between the two tyre giants. They're all running radial tyres now on these racing cars. All these Formula 1 cars have got radial tyres, and just 2 weeks ago the American kart series, the IndyCar races, they too turned to radial tyres. But this is the battle out here between Michelin and Goodyear have been leading most of this race. The Lotuses are on Goodyear's, and Rosberg's car's on Goodyear's, but this man who's won more Grand Prix this year than anybody else is on Michelin, so the tyre war is really hotting up.
Here's Dr. Jonathan Palmer in trouble. The Ram Hart-powered car coming to conclusion. His teammate crashed. They did not have a backup car. Billy Pilot crashed 2 days ago here.
Looking for a hole in Chris Economac's prison wall and fence, trying to get out now before he gets run over.
So we have another new leader in this event, and it is this man. Alain Prost of France is now leading for the McLaren Tag Porsche team. He's in front. Can he stay there? We'll be back with more live coverage of the Dallas Grand Prix after this word from your local station. We are back with you live in Dallas, Texas. CBS flag-to-flag coverage of the Dallas Rose Grand Prix. And we have just watched as the Ferrari of Arnoux has picked up another position, passing Niki Lauda. Lauda being relegated back a spot here. Arnoux in the Ferrari, who, as David Hobbs mentioned to you, had fallen to the very tail of the field on the start, has charged back and now puts himself right up among the leaders. Here he is moving around Nigel Mansell, putting a lap on him.
Nigel's now a lap down after that tyre change.
And so Arnoux is the challenger. Time is running out. The race is official. 75% of the distance has been covered. The race may not be rained out, but there could be a perspiration out here. I don't know what's keeping these drivers together. It's just remarkable, the performance they put on. So much consternation before the race began, but it's turned out to be one of the very best that we've been able to see here on CBS.
In every respect, I mean, nothing like as much attrition as we feared. The tyres have been no problem at all. The track's broken up, but the drivers have handled it all extremely well. And nobody yet has come in with heat exhaustion. If they haven't done it by now, they're obviously going to be able to last the odd 15 or 20 minutes that's left of this race.
And that's what Grand Prix is supposed to be about. There's Alboreto just in front of the leader, Michele Alboreto, just in front of Prost, who is trying to win a remarkable 5th Grand Prix of the year. The French just have never come through that world title. Francois Severe years ago was 3rd in an effort for it. Patrick Depailler had a 4th and 5th. Lafitte was 4th 3 years running, 79 to 81. but it never came through. You have to go back to the days of René Dreyfus, back before World War II, to carry the colors of France. And of course, there was Trentino, who had some great years in competition in Formula One racing. But right now, the man in McLaren who switched teams, left McLaren for a while, and is now back, is leading this race, building up a handsome lead. And once again, you're in there with Team Ferrari, and this is Arnoux. Arnoux now lying third overall. Prost is first, Rosberg second, Arnoux third, Lauda fourth, De Angelis fifth, and Alboreto, the sixth-place car, about to be overlapped by the leader.
There's another slight side effect that might creep into this race is fuel. These cars are just a bit marginal on fuel at the best of times. If they're going to run 2 hours, we could see them all parked to the side of the road yet, out of fuel.
58 gallons is all that they're allowed. They can't add oil to the cars, but now they can't add fuel either. And that seems to me a rather strange regulation.
Well, it was brought in as a safety rule. Over the last 3 years, pit stops crept in as a major part of Formula One racing, and unlike NASCAR racing, they're really not set up for it. The pit areas are never set up for it. And you get these cars that accelerate from 0 to 100 in maybe 2.5 seconds. If you're at one end of the pits and you stop for fuel, by the time you exit pit lane, you're doing 130 miles an hour, and they just decided that maybe that wasn't such a smart move after all, so they stopped, fuel stopped.
Earlier we had a chance to ask Arnoux just how well this track suited that Ferrari.
I think the track is not good for every car here. Not for Ferrari, not for McLaren, not for Renault. Because it's not a racing Formula One car, it's rally car. I am not very happy. When I drive, I'm happy because I am in a good team. I am very lucky, but it is not possible to drive in this condition, really to drive.
Like Sherrard said in the Dallas paper, not only the engines whine. But right now, he's come back. He's had 7 Grand Prix wins. He's had 1 second place this year. Somehow that track's beginning to fit into his plans.
Exactly. He says it's very hard and it's for rally cars, not racing cars, but the fact does remain that in extremely hot conditions, in a very arduous course, he has pulled up from 25th to 3rd spot.
And that's what Grand Prix racing was to be about, to test equipment, constructors' equipment to the very hilt. Railroad tracks and bumpy courses and streets and cobblestones were the issue. And for a lot of years, they really built the courses more for the cars. And this one is one that takes everything out.
Well, and of course, it's also to test the drivers. And the average racing driver races for just a few bucks. And these guys get in the millions annually. And the least they can do is race where the cars go.
They've done a good job today. They put on a fine performance with 53 laps now completed. Prost now leads Rosberg by 6 seconds in the first Dallas Grand Prix. Live here today on CBS. For race drivers used to the balmy breezes of the Mediterranean, this is some kind of day. They find themselves in the midst of a Texas barbecue, and they're the ones on the spit. It is car number 7, Alain Prost, continuing to lead now by 7 seconds over Rosberg in second position. Arnoux has fought his way back to third with his finest performance thus far in 1984. Austrian Niki Lauda maintains fourth. Emilio De Angelis is in fifth. As our live CBS sports coverage continues here this afternoon, the Western Open. Hopefully a little more balmy up in Chicago than it is here. Let's take a look at the attrition. Those that have fallen by the wayside, 11 of the 25 starters have now fallen out of the race. Hainaut, Belloff, the U.S. driver Eddie Cheever has come out of the race. 11 drivers out. Looks like we're trying to promote going after an incident. Here we are with number 7. Prost once again. We'll back to that attrition for you shortly. Car number 27.
And he's got a deranged right rear wheel. He's obviously just clipped the wall. Michel Alboreto wasn't running in the top group, but he was a lap down.
We had him in 6th position, I believe. Just at the end of the scoring.
They really got a point.
On the end of the lead lap. He was in 6th position when Michele Alboreto, who won a race this year in Belgium, after sitting on the pole in the race they had dedicated to Gilles Villeneuve. That's 12 cars are now out. Change the attrition board another time as Alboreto falls by the wayside after having completed 55 laps. 67 laps the distance if they go there, or 2 hours. And the time is now about 19 minutes remaining to be run. Ken Squire and David Hobbs with you on a very warm day. Temperature 102 degrees now in Dallas, Texas. And inside of those saunas called race cars. Any idea what it would be out there now?
Well, as I said earlier, it's got to be at least 30 degrees above ambient in the cockpit. Plus, of course, you're sitting in the bright sunshine. It's not a shade temperature. The sun is shining right on you in those cars. I think Barry's got some more information for us down the pits. Barry?
Yes, David, we've been talking to one of the team managers who confirms it's probably 140 degrees Fahrenheit in the cockpit. And that particular manager, who doesn't want to be quoted, is not surprised that both Prost and Lauda are up there amongst the leaders, because they subject themselves to the most rigorous training procedure of any driver in Grand Prix racing.
Leader is just coming in. Car number 7.
Alan Prost
is down behind the 27, and he is out of the race. He just pulled up and retired.
Obviously something's broken. I mean, he didn't run into anything. He just stopped. Well, Alan Prost.
There's the new leader. Rosberg is back in front.
Rosberg is back in front, and I tell you what, he is being closed up on by René Arnoux in the number 28 Ferrari. He's about 9 seconds in front at the moment, but Arnoux is making slow but sure progress on him, and there was about another 17 minutes to go. This could be a race right down to the wire. What a terrible disappointment for Alain Prost, who drove so well in that race, kept a very cool head, made a couple of really good passes. I think Barry Gill's got something more for us down the pits. Barry?
Well, David, as we were saying before we were interrupted by Mr. Prost's departure, I was saying that he would be fit even if the car wasn't. And of course that means that Niki Lauda has now moved up, who's on his 150th Grand Prix. And the way that Niki and Alain have been keeping fit is by walking 4 hours every morning, having meat once a week, fish once a week, no alcohol, no coffee, and they live off a diet of strawberries, yogurt, salad and mixed vegetables. What a way to earn money. I'm sure Chris Economaki couldn't survive on that diet. Over to you, Chris.
Well, if you think it's hot in those cars, 147 degrees is nothing until you go into one of these. This is a combination tortilla oven and portalette. And I've got to go in. I'll see you all later.
I understand they measured it in there at some 430 degrees. Somebody in the Dallas paper wrote the other day, along with that problem.
There's a whole car park. Here's Thierry Boutsen out now in the Arrows BMW. He's just stopped and pulled up as well. This must be something about maybe the Arrow tagging the wall there. I don't know whether that's the part that's just part where it's very breaking up, but it seems funny they still stop there.
14th car to retire.
Unless they're running out of fuel. They may be running out of fuel, in which case we could be into a situation where the last man running is the winner.
Well, it happened in the first race in Brazil. It happened in South Africa. They were running out of fuel. And on down through the season. It did not happen, of course, in Monaco because the race was short. But in race after race, these turbos gulp up a lot of fuel. And there's the second place car now. Arnoux into second position, looking for his first win of the year. His last win came in 1983 in Holland. Arnoux trying to win for Ferrari here today, and what a surprise that would be as he has come from the tail end of the field.
He's not making much ground on Rosberg. Rosberg is holding him at about 8 to 10 seconds. But it makes you wonder on this fuel business. And both of these guys are obviously going to have to drive fairly hard to try and stay in front or get in front. And of course, if they run out of fuel, that's why Nigel Mansell is short shifting. He's revving less than the others. Maybe at the end of this race, Nigel Mansell will still be the only guy out there.
Racing around on a stovetop here in Dallas, Texas. A 10-second lead for this man. But here's an interesting situation. All of those races before have ended at 1 hour 35 to 1 hour 45 minutes. This is going to go to 2 hours. And on that basis, we may see some more running out of fuel.
Oh, that's absolutely true. Yeah, this is true.
There's the third place car, Niki Lauda. Lauda back to the third position. Leader Rosberg, second Arnoux, and third is this man, the twice world champion in 1975 and 1977, Niki Lauda. For McLaren, holds on to third. Nearly lost his life in 1976 in the German Grand Prix. and raced, then came back before the year was over to make a stab at winning the championship, and lost it only in the final race in Japan to James Hunt. More live from Dallas on CBS in a moment. Final round coverage of the Western Open from the Chicago area is coming up next, live this afternoon here on CBS. Stay tuned. Here's the leaderboard at the Western Open. Tom Watson, 7 under. Greg Norman, 5 under. And the man who led it yesterday, Wavering, is back at 4, and Mark O'Meara, Floridian, 4 under. That's next this afternoon. Leader now has lost a second. Rosberg to the second place man, Arnoux, closing. It was 10.7. Now it's down to 9.1. From 10.7 to 9.9 to 9.1. Arnoux gathering in some ground. There remains in time approximately 11 minutes left. 10 minutes 55 seconds, they're reporting, to a flag. If they were in a lap, they would come around and take the checker to make it official. Well, there's the Formula One parking lot here out on the track. See an Arrows leading the group. The McLaren, the Prost, in back. And he will not be scoring points the way things are going today. Lauda, his teammate, could well move up in the standings.
There we see Rosberg. Must be taking it relatively easy now. I would think he's got a 10-second cushion, nearly a 10-second cushion over Arnoux. And of course, the one thing he really doesn't want to do is run out of fuel. I'm not sure whether those other guys have or not, but he certainly doesn't want to do that himself.
Coming down to 10 minutes remaining in the race. In laps, there are 60 complete, 67 would make it an official go. And I think the time will run out before the laps today here at Dallas, Texas. 80,000 strong, the 60-lap average, 81.432. And Rosberg now has to discipline himself not to overuse the car or overuse the fuel.
Exactly. He's obviously not going to make any mistakes on this track. There's too little room for error. He certainly doesn't want to use his precious fuel load up, because with this very hot weather, the fuel tanks on these cars wouldn't have held quite as much fuel as they would do. They stoop to all sorts of tricks. They freeze the fuel and jam it in these cars to make sure they get just slightly over the legal limit. And today, with the car starting hot, that would have been more difficult. There's Niki Lauda stop now. Niki Lauda's also joined that incredible graveyard of cars.
So both of the McLarens have now retired the tag Porsche power plants. McLaren cars out of this Dallas Grand Prix. And still moving on is Rosberg.
Now, if they have run out of fuel, I'd be very surprised, because the fuel management system on those Porsche engines is particularly good. They've had more experience than anybody else out here. But if that is the case, obviously something dramatic's happening.
Here's Barry Gill.
Well, I'm in the happiest bit, I think, at the moment. Obviously, the Williams tag pit, they haven't had their share of luck this season. Now they've got, of course, Keke Rosberg with that specially cooled helmet, flying first, and, of course, Jacques Lafitte. Now, Jacques Lafitte is not only the oldest man in the race, but he's also the lightest man in the race. And he said the hot weather would be no problem to him at all, because he'd just got nothing to lose, except sleep. He got here at 6:45 a.m. this morning, wearing, believe it or not, his pajamas and his racing helmet. But at the moment, he's certainly not asleep, and he's heading for points again. The oldest man in the race, and he's going to be one of the men in the points.
That's Jacques Lafitte that he's speaking of, who now is being shown as getting himself back up into some points this afternoon. Jacques Lafitte is being shown overall in 5th position, which would be his best finish of the year. Rosberg in the lead. Earlier we asked him if he would do well in this race. This is what Keke Rosberg said.
Who knows? I think this is a very open race and quite independent of qualifying. I think you'll see big changes in the results in the last 10 laps of the race. I don't think it's really important where you are in the first 10 laps.
Keke Rosberg, who himself ran out of fuel in the Belgian Grand Prix earlier this year, now is leading and has to be a tad nervous as he can see that collection of cars up there on that corner.
Boy, his heart must be really beating, because the car has not got a great fuel record. It does develop a tremendous amount of horsepower, and horsepower means fuel. And he obviously was using it, a lot of it earlier on, trying to get around Nigel Mansell.
Well, he's turned up the boost a bit, because now his advantage is 14 and 8/10 seconds as he passes the graveyard here at the Dallas Grand Prix for Formula One hopes. Back with more live in a moment. Dallas Grand Prix has Keke Rosberg out in front by some 14 seconds, with now 4 minutes and 37 seconds left to be played out in this first race of this 2.4-mile course that's coming to you live on CBS. With David Hobbs, I'm Ken Squire. Behind Rosberg, there are only 8 other drivers in competition, and they're all panting at this moment like Wile E. Coyote after a heavy day chasing the Roadrunner. That's the Roadrunner they're chasing. Rosberg in front for Williams Honda. He only has 2 victories to his credit. The last one came at Monaco in '83, and he had 1 victory back in '82. Rosberg in front. Approximately 4 minutes left to play out this event.
Rosberg still tramping on at a pretty fair pace, considering he's got a huge lead now over René Arnoux. And if I was him, I'd be going a lot slower than this and try and spin these last 2 laps out to close to a couple of minutes to get the flag and reduce the tension on my heart, because this car is not going to run much longer.
Arnoux maintaining second position, seems to be willing to play it a little close to the vest now and is not challenging, kind of waiting to see what will happen to the leader as he continues to skate around the Dallas Grand Prix. We are in the final moments of the Dallas Grand Prix. Rosberg is leading, Arnoux second, DeAngelis third, Jacques Lafitte to fourth. Nigel Mansell now shown in 5th, and Cinzani is up to 6th, and that will be his first point of the year, first point in Formula One racing.
He had a most horrific accident in practice for the South African Grand Prix when his car literally exploded and burnt to nothing. He got some minor burns, but a terrifically strong recovery. Here we see Rosberg overlapping his teammate, Jacques Lafitte, and the French athlete.
We show about 1:10 left, David, to complete this event this afternoon. For Rosberg to win his 3rd Grand Prix and his first of 1984. There's Rosberg in front. Now there's Arnoux, the second-place car in the Ferrari, about 20 seconds back.
Well, there should be a minute. 1 minute left.
Approximately a minute is left. We'd like to make a special mention here to Boyd Sutton and Lance Schaefer, 2 of the men responsible for putting this course together. And it's worked out to be an exciting, interesting course in Dallas. We can't wait to come back for 1985 to Dallas, Texas, a new site for World Championship racing. And Rosberg is going to like it a real lot.
Well, I think another time they'll perhaps come back at a slightly cooler time of the year if it can be arranged. There we see Rosberg on his way now. He won't be on his last lap because they'll probably make him go round again to make sure they get the full 2 hours in.
Into the last lap now. This is reported as the final lap. There are 9 cars remaining on the track. All of a sudden, in about 10 minutes, Alboreto, Prost, Boutsen, Lauda retired, all at the same place on the track.
And all seemingly without any damage to the car, so it makes you wonder whether they have in fact run out of fuel.
Getting down to the final seconds of competition as the lead car, Rosberg, must be running very light in the tank right now, has a lead of 21 1/10 of a second. He'll complete 67 as they come by, so it'll be time and laps. It'll end at exactly the same time, David.
It'll be just
strange circumstance.
Dead on. So the organizers, promoters, judge that down to an absolute nicety.
2 hours or 67 laps, and it looks like it's going to end at exactly that for both categories. Time and laps coming down for Rosberg.
Last lap signal there, flag marshal giving him the thumbs up through the fence.
Keke Rosberg in his 75th World Championship race. Honda-powered car for Frank Williams' team, holding on to these final corners.
Coming down to the last hairpin now before the start finish straight. First gear hairpin around there very carefully this time. Accelerate up to the gears. Second, third, fourth. Back to third as he comes down to the corner, leading on to the start finish straight.
There's the second place car, Arnoux in second place for Team Ferrari. Checkered flag coming out, and down out of that final 16th turn, the winner of the Dallas Grand Prix, for Team Williams. The Honda-powered car. Rosberg wins the third of his career. In for second will be Arnoux. The first win for Honda Williams. The first time that the Honda-powered Williams has come to victory is before 80,000 enthusiasts here on a day in the 100s in Dallas, Texas.
Well, I don't suppose Honda will mind that too much, because not only did they come first, they came fourth as well. And here's Nigel Mansell rolling around the last corner.
Right down below us, Nigel Mansell just creeping, crawling along. He's sitting up in the cockpit directly in front of us. Totally exhausted. Nigel Mansell just standing in his car and getting a tremendous round of applause from about 20 rows of... Here is Mansell pushing his car.
Crowd going absolutely wild as Nigel Mansell tries to push his car over the line. At the end of 67 laps, that's going to be a hard job. There's another car stopped on the start-finish line as well. Somebody else probably ran out of fuel and just coasted over the line.
Nigel Mansell currently in 5th place, and here's the man that's going to beat him, about to go by him. Down across the line comes Cinzani in the blue car. Mansell still trying to score a point, pushing his car. What an incredible effort by Nigel Mansell, the man who set on the pole. He cannot be assisted. He has to do it by himself, and he collapses about 400 feet shy of the line. Nigel Mansell collapsing beside his car. 400 feet. He did not score a point. Carlo Cinzani took the final point from him as he climbed from his car and then tried to push it across the line. He ran out of fuel just at the final corner.
He ran out of fuel and ran out of energy. To push a car like that at the end of a race like that is almost would be absolutely impossible.
Nigel Mansell trying every effort, every sinew. Just an unbelievable effort. And if one wants to know how serious World Championship Formula One is, that is it. 100+ degree temperature for 2 solid hours, no relief, no alternate, no defensive unit to put in. He was there for every inch of this track. Then he had to try and push his car home.
There's basically no other game in the world apart from the marathon itself where you do extend yourself in 2 hours. Arnoux's got his helmet off, trying to get some fresh air in there.
The winner now coming in. The ambulance is coming out for Nigel Mansell, who has collapsed. They're trying to bring his car across. They're saying that he will still get the 6th point, that Mansell will get the 6th point as the flag was out.
Sterling efforts out there by a number of people. Obviously a great day for the Honda Williams team, coming first and second. Reasonable day for Lotus, both finishing in the points. Ferrari did great. Arnoux had a great race, coming from the back of the field to finish a very strong second. And a lot more finishes, in fact, than we had thought.
Carlo Cinzani will get the 5th position. Mansell will get the 6th on the finish. Cinzani scoring for Team Osella. And Nigel Mansell, with this valiant effort, short today. Short by scant feet from finishing this race. Now being taken into the ambulance. Remember, we saw him in Detroit, being assisted talking to Chris Economaki at the end of that race. And the crowd still applauding this dramatic finish by this very brave man.
They need to take him away and get him put down in some ice. Only the 2nd time ever in this race that Osella have scored any points. So they'll be pretty happy.
The winner, Rosberg, for Team Williams. Arnoux gets 2nd, and Elio De Angelis will be 3rd for today here in Dallas. It's on to Great Britain for the World Championship Formula One. We'll be with you next year again from Dallas, Texas, for the Dallas Grand Prix. Rosberg winning his 3rd race. About to take the victory podium for the finish anthem here in Dallas, Texas. For David Hobbs, Chris Economaki, and Barry Gill, this is Ken Squire saying so long from the Dallas Grand Prix. Stay tuned for the Western Open Golf Tournament coming up next on CBS Sports. The 1984 Dallas Grand Prix has been a presentation of CBS Sports.